Alright, good evening everyone. Today is Tuesday, May 26th. This is the regular meeting of the Rhinebeck Board of Education. It's great to see that we have a number of students and teachers and community members with us. So with that, I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 12th, 2015 regular meeting.
So moved.
My favor?
Second.
By Lisa. Discussion. All those in favor? That's unanimous. That
No.
passes. I'm sorry.
Just abstention.
All right.
One abstention.
All right, so the next one. All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 19th, 2015 annual meeting.
So moved.
By favor?
Second.
By Lisa. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor? It's all except Walker. And,
I'm going to abstain.
okay, that motion passes. We have an opportunity for public comment. Is there any member of the public that would like to make a comment at this time? All right, seeing none. Move on to principal's reports.
Good evening, everyone. A few highlights happening at Chancellor since the last time we met. Wanted to point out a books journey sponsored by the Arts and Ed. It started on April 24th, but it lasts about 8 weeks long, something we do every year. And as I've mentioned in the past, students have an opportunity to learn from a variety of publishing professionals on how to create and illustrate books. And one of the reasons I wanted to include it again this week, this meeting, was to let you know about a Meet the Young Authors event at CLS on June 19th. And you get a chance to see the students' creations. So the 8-week project kind of culminates with them creating their own books and using the things that they learned. You've heard about the Get Moving grant. We won $1,000 for our school in the first round. And just to let everyone know, I don't know where we're at with it, but CLS did move to the second round, entered in a statewide competition to win up to $2,000 more for our PE program. So I can give you an update the next time on how that worked out. I wanted to also let you know something I reported at the PTSO meeting last week or 2 weeks ago. The two phys ed teachers reached out as a result of some conversations they had with colleagues doing this, other physical education teachers in the area, and wanted to do something they called Meeting of the Minds Phys Ed Summit, and it was on May 18th, and they've asked pretty much every PE teacher in the county to come, really a huge list. They got about 3 or 4 that were able to actually make it. Some had to cancel at the last minute due to things at their school, but it was a good first attempt on their part to get some of their colleagues in. And the idea was just to share units that they're doing, interdisciplinary units as well, also a few icebreakers so that everybody kind of left with something in hand. So the good thing was we were able to host that in my building in the PD room. First of probably many years of those gentlemen bringing some people in. And there's some other groups that are actually, some other of their colleagues who are interested in doing the same at their school. So it may have been the start of something good. Want to let you know about that. I've been talking about the BLPT initiative about school spirit, and the latest was a Fair Character Day on the 8th of May. We had 4 Waldos in the building, so it wasn't very difficult to find him. Camilla Creams, we had 3 of them, from A Bad Case of Stripes, one of my personal favorite books, 2 staff members and a student. And I have to give a shout out to one of our newest teachers, Katie Torres, who really, I think the CLS staff that's here would attest to the fact that that's one teacher that really gets into all of our school spirit days. Literally painted all the way down her sleeves, her face, everything. If you know, the Camilla Cream's all covered in different color stripes for her entire body. So she really got into it. In addition, May 4th, 6th, and 8th, earlier this month, we had 4th grade students present their research projects around mythology. And basically what they did was they dressed in their costumes and were experts in the subjects as they presented to their fellow 4th grade students as well as 3rd grade students over those 3 days. I always like to see multiple grades working together on projects like that. I want to just remind you can still do it through the end of this week, I believe. Don't forget to check out Rejuvenation, a group exhibit of students from our district. All 3 buildings are represented there in Montgomery Row on the 2nd level through this entire month, so if you haven't had an opportunity, please check that out. I wanted to report last Friday we had Special Friends Day of the 22nd with parent-teacher conferences in the afternoon, something that we kind of combined those 2 half days. to consolidate some of the days we had this year. It seemed to work out pretty well. We got a lot of good feedback from it. And as always, the 2 concerts in the morning with the help of the entire staff went very well. I also wanted to announce the principal for the day winner, first grader Calder Wright. That was a fundraiser with the RSF, and he's going to join me on the 3-5 field day. And enjoy himself there. I'll be planning that day with him. Wanted to also let you know, just a follow-up, next week is our Engineers Week. Grades 2 through 5 will participate. It's the 27th to the 29th. We'll have 7 engineers visiting. Grade 5 on the 22nd, grades 2 and 4 on the 28th, grades 3 on the 29th. One last thing before I get to some of the upcoming events, I just wanted to shout out this year. I guess it's a bit of a theme on my end. It's pretty conscious. There's a lot of really great things happening in my building that are like community builders. Everything from family fun, fitness night to staff getting together early on in the day, in even afternoon, doing jogging together, things like that. And something that happened this weekend, if you hadn't heard, there was a color run in Queens to raise awareness around homelessness. And it happened on Saturday the 23rd. And 15 people went down, a group of 15 people associated with Chancellor went down to the event, and 9 of them were CLS teachers, and a couple of
That's great.
their spouses as well. Just really a great example of community building happened on a Saturday. Got some great pictures. I won't call those teachers out, but they were 9. It was great to see. Some upcoming events: Claremont Poetry Trail. Grade 3 students in Ms. Rizzolo's class will be participating this year in a community arts event at Claremont Historical Site. Basically, it's an opportunity to connect people of all backgrounds to nature, and creative writing and historic site itself. Connected to their current poetry unit, poetry and illustrations from the students will be hung along the path from the Walled Garden to Claremont Cottage. There'll be an opening reception. Parents and students are certainly invited on Sunday, June 7th from 4 to 7, and it'll be on display all through the month of June as long as it holds up to the weather. Something new we've never really participated in before. I thought was worth mentioning. A few of our end of the year activities. We have our field day for K2 on June 11th, 3-5 on the 15th. K graduations on the 23rd, and grade 5 moving up ceremony on the 24th. The 3rd year in a row we were able to use the auditorium over here. Dr. D and Mr. Kemmons for letting us use that space. It's always been successful. And last but certainly not least, grade 3 rail trail bike trip will be June 19th.
Last time you were here, it was in the middle of the state test, and I was wondering if you had any more feedback since they're all completed now on how everything went.
Yeah, well, I know we spoke a little bit about ELA, but yeah, we haven't had a conversation about the math. I did get better feedback from the math. I mean, still in all 3 grades, there were certainly, parts of the test that were very difficult, that seemed confusing. I think all in all, the feedback I got and what I had seen when I went through some of them as a test coordinator, I noticed it was a little bit more appropriate developmentally than it was last year, but there were still, certainly instances where questions seemed almost purposefully confusing, things like that. ELA, again, we kind of talked briefly about the same. There was certainly, you may have heard, there was definitely some, I think the biggest issue with the ELA, and this isn't something that was kept really very quiet out in the media, but it was true. A lot of the passages across the 3 grades, there were a handful of passages that were developmentally much higher, and let's say 3rd, 4th grade specifically had, high school level interest in language and things like that. But I can say it was certainly a better test overall than what we've seen in the past couple of years. Not as many issues with time as in the past, but still a handful of students that didn't get an opportunity to finish the test. And we had, as far as our opt-outs, we had more refusals. We had more in 3rd grade than 4th and 5th. About 21 or so kids in 3rd grade, and only a handful in 4th and 5th. Most of those students had taken it in the past. So we'll see how that ramps up. We do have a field test for 3rd grade coming up in about 2 weeks. Just 3rd grade, I believe it's writing. So we'll get that out as soon as we can. Work on the 3rd grade. It looks like we'll probably do it June 3rd.
Could you just speak up a little bit? That you're saying there was a field test when?
June, well, we have a window, but we'll be administering to third grade on June 3rd.
And
We have
it's
till
an
the
ELA
12th.
test?
ELA writing, yep. Just for third grade.
Please.
What did you do to yourself?
I said last week, I think we're going to put a link on the website, Mr. King's Injuries, right under newsletters. I can upload x-rays and everything, dates of tetanus shots, things like that. I accidentally knocked over a picture frame and went to go catch it and put my hand right through it. That's what it was. It's getting better though.
That's
Stitches came out. 20 stitches. Thank you for asking.
Feel better.
I will, thank you.
Fred, I just wanted to ask again about the test, for the field test or the regular tests that are administered. You or the teachers seeing any of the questions?
I'm
I
sorry.
mean, you're not given any of the questions, like, what do you see, there's something in legislation that like maybe more questions would be released from the tests
Oh,
so that these tests aren't like unknowable, right?
Right.
Currently, they're not. You just sort of see
they're not, historically, the last couple of years, they've only released like kind of sample, like a few sample questions.
Is anything changing that you're aware of, or in the field test? Do you even see the field test itself?
No, that's secured too. Same rules apply as far as opening them prior to the test and things like that, so. Yeah, they don't release any in advance, and they haven't really released, other than a
Or
few
afterwards,
samples.
right? Except just a couple, right?
That's right,
So
yeah, and they haven't been archiving them for quite a while on the state website. They used to put them out, kind of archiving. You could take a look at them and see, in fact, years ago when I was a literacy coach, it was interesting. That was very handy because you could take a look and, look at patterns or just see, I remember something, they don't have it anymore, but there used to be a listening portion of the test, historically right in the middle, day 2. And there you could kind of take a look at the extended response. Very often had to do with character changes from beginning to end. It was something back then it was like 7 of the last 9 years. So you have an idea of maybe some things you might want to focus on more, develop with the kids. Now obviously we use the Common Core to kind of move forward, and that's what we design our curriculum around. But yeah, the state in the past has really the last several years has not archived any past tests. We actually, an interesting thing that which probably adds more cost to this at the state level, just in the last like 4 or 5 years, we actually ship it back to them. Used to be we store it and then you have it shredded or whatever. We actually now, with the exception of our own, of the students' tests that were written in, we hold on to those for a year and then it's up to us to obviously shred them. But all the other tests come with prepaid, mail forms, and we actually send it back to the state for them to destroy it. So the security of it is really, as far as any release on their part, has been minimized.
So making like a really sort of intelligence, like an assessment, comprehensive assessment about whether questions are developmentally appropriate or not, it's just sort of like what is gleaned that day.
That's right.
Incidentally, but there's not any way that you can actually have confidence in this test being developmentally appropriate.
That's right.
Supposedly, they're going to release more questions this summer, but, we're still playing this game with not just saying, here, we gave the test, look it over, we're now you're gonna give us some more, but
Yeah.
still have the whole thing.
It's interesting, we also don't get, I don't mean to throw my apologies, but one thing we also don't do, used to be able to go on New York Star, take a look at real results from your school. Maybe it happened months after, but regardless, you can take a look at specific groups of students, your whole entire building, by grade. Listen, 72% of your kids got this question wrong. It was around inferencing. This was a specific question. You got some really good data from it. They don't offer that. It's much less information than in the past. But yeah, like Joe said, I did hear that they were going to release more, but to be honest, I'm not sure how much more.
So I hadn't heard this before, so just that previous comment was that last year, say we get scores, but they didn't break it down so that a teacher could see kind of what pieces of the test their students did less well or better at?
And that's been the case for quite a while.
Since the past couple
Several
of
years, yeah. But you used to get it much more granular level down to the students sometimes. You could go in and take a look at it.
So this idea, because I hadn't quite heard that before, so because the argument, of course, is that a piece of this is that this is helping teachers and students do their job better.
Right.
But with all this sort of games, and the game, to use Joe's word, and the security,
You get much larger blocks of info. You used to be able to say, hey, you had 92 third graders take the test.
Right.
86 of them, got this question correct, or these 9 questions about inferencing correct, and even that you'd get some information out of it, but they don't provide it.
It's clearly not informing instruction.
Yeah.
It's obviously not the
Yeah.
purpose
Right.
for these assessments. You know what the purpose is, and it's not improving instruction.
Right. Thanks.
Brett, I guess actually for both of you, later on in the evening here, we're going to be voting to purchase more computers and other technology, and I know that it's been introduced in your building and your building, and it started off maybe a little bumpy.
Earlier.
How's it going?
It's going well. It's interesting. We started map testing the growth measure from the beginning of the year, end of the year, and it was a really good problem to have. We needed to pull in because we broke down the older computers in the computer lab in my building. And we had to kind of, I guess, commandeer, if you regardless, work with the staff to figure out which carts we'll use to set up in the computer lab so students come and take the tests. And we broke it up, 2 grades at a time and tried to take them. But the interesting thing was, it was hard to figure out because they were constantly being used. In fact, I know as a fact there was a lot of my staff that had to actually put some things on hold so that we could do the testing utilizing them. So they're being used in the classroom. I know Allison, the Allison Macarino, the days where we're not using her for maps assessments, things like that, she's got a full schedule of people using her. There is still some, setup issues and things like that they're working on, but I'm finding the staff is absolutely using the deployed carts that we've been, we started utilizing mid-year. But it was a good problem to have. We had to really put some things on hold to get those end of year assessments finished.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kemminster was not able to be here tonight, so he asked me to share his report. My condolences. But I'll be.
It's not that
But you're not going to add that.
The ninth annual Rhinebeck Central School District Art Show titled Juvenation is in its final days at second floor of Montgomery Road. The show features the work of district students grades K through 12, and if you haven't had a chance to stop by, please do so. Earlier this month, thanks to Meg Rody and Barbara Alstead, members of the Peer Leadership Club spent 4 afternoons reading to kindergarten students at CLS in honor of National Book Week. Mr. Kenrich's 8th grade students are nearing completion of their work with performers from the Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival this year, and they'll be performing for 5th grade classes at CLS on June 9th, and I believe they're performing Romeo and Juliet. Last week, 7th grade students took part in the walking history tour of Rhinebeck, thanks to the hard work of Mr. Frischkeneck, Pat Sexton, Martha Tobias, and members of the Rhinebeck Historical Society and local chapters of DAR, as well as historians from the Beekman Arms Post Office and the Dutch Reformed Church. The event was an overwhelming success. Students learned about the history of Rhinebeck from pre-Revolutionary War times to the present through a variety of hands-on activities at several locations throughout the village, including the Dutch Reformed Church, the Beekman Arms, the DAR House, archives, and the post office. They had the opportunity to study 18th century Dutch architecture, view and work with some of the oldest historical documents in Rhinebeck, and view and participate in skits depicting life prior to and during the Revolutionary War. Following the program's success, Mr. Frischkeneck has been working with teachers at CLS to put a similar age-appropriate program together for 2nd grade students, and they'll participate in this on June 2nd and 3rd with the assistance of 15 7th grade students who will help to serve as tour guides. 7th grade students also recently traveled to the Esopus Meadows Environmental Center in Ulster Park to participate in the Clearwater Shoreside program. Students spent the day sanding the Hudson River, catching, identifying, and classifying fish and invertebrates, using tide charts to map out the river in the Rhinebeck area, as well as conducting water quality assessments. So I'll have to remind or remember Mr. Kevitzer for putting the word "seining" in his report. I don't think I've ever seen that in print before. S-E-I-N-I-N-G. I think I pronounced it correctly.
You did.
Yeah. As we wrap up our state testing, 8th grade students sat for the performance portion of the New York State Science Assessment last week to complete the written portion on June 1st. On Thursday, 7th and 8th grade band members will travel to New York City to view a performance of the Casey Nicola musical Something Rotten. Earlier this month, 17 BMS students performed at the New York State School Music Association Solo Festival. These talents were on display at our spring band concert early this month. And again, students will be performing the upcoming chorus concert on June 3rd and the small ensemble concert on June 11th. Some end-of-the-year events. June 18th is the last full day of classes for BMS. On the 18th, there's an 8th grade ice cream social at 6 and the moving up ceremony at 7. June 19th is field day, and June 22nd is the 5th grade parent orientation. Moving on to the high school. I'd like to begin with some co-curricular reports. First, last weekend, 160 juniors and seniors attended our junior-senior prom. It was another wonderful success. Congratulations to the chaperones, Mrs. Baird, the class advisor, and all of our students. It's a lot of fun for me to be the proverbial fly on the wall. Just to watch all of our students in their finery enjoying themselves, and I'm invisible, so it's a great time. Members of our drama club participated recently in the Hudson Valley AIDS Walk. Also recently, members of our environmental club took a field trip to count amphibians and egg masses and assess the health of woodland pools with the staff of Scenic Hudson. Some of the staff came to school during environmental club meetings and trained our students in how to count egg masses, how to assess the health of the woodland pools, and then later our students were able to take a trip to some vernal pools and apply some of this new knowledge. In BLP team news, we'll have our second annual Welcome Back barbecue this Friday from 1 to 3 for last year's graduates. And there's no cost for admission, but as they're here catching up and reconnecting with teachers and some of their friends, we asked them to complete a short survey on their experience after coming back. In addition, the BLPT will again administer a survey to our graduating seniors during the last week of school. Mrs. Hackett and Mr. Judd kindly let us take the seniors out of the PE classes to complete this survey. And we will again survey freshman students in their English classes to get a sense of their freshman year and provide some data for us to think about the transition between England and eighth grade. In the English department, I know this received a lot of publicity, but I did want to take a moment both to recognize our students in our English department for bringing 2 wonderful assemblies in 1 week to our students. Our students enjoyed a performance of Macbeth by the Hudson Valley Shakespeare Company. In addition, we hosted a presentation by Holocaust survivors for our students, which was simply an extraordinary event. 2-hour assembly, all of our students in rapt attention, very powerful, so my congratulations and my admiration both to our students and to the individuals who brought this opportunity to our school. In the math department, on June 2nd, we will be administering the Common Core Geometry Regents to our geometry students. In social studies news, right before our budget vote, the Dutchess County Board of Elections came to present to our students on the importance of voting and to help register the students who are of age who have not yet registered. In addition, our social studies department, Mr. Lavazzo, has concluded his, I think his 3rd year of collaborative work with the professors and graduate students at SUNY New Paltz in a program that helps learn new teachers or student teachers come to school and learn how to incorporate current events and worldwide events in social studies classes. In art and music, we've had successful field trips to R&F Paints and also to the Museum of Modern Art. Our band and chorus next week will attend adjudication festivals at compounds. We have recently concluded administering 174 AP exams to 109 students. And again this year, with the support of our school resource officers and the PTSO, We held our second annual Safe Driving Week in PE classes. Students participated in a seatbelt contest. With support of the PTSO, we were able to bring a victim impact speaker again for the third year to speak to our juniors. Jonathan Muller talked to our kids. And our SROs spoke to our seniors about the importance of remaining safe and making good choices as we conclude our school year. Looking ahead, we have our academic awards ceremony on June 8th. On June 10th is our athletic awards ceremony and new pop quiz. When's June 27th is our commencement at 6.
No, just a comment, always a lot going on, as usual, a lot taking kids out of school to do lots of things with the community and relating to New York. It's really terrific. But I also want to just thank you personally. I understand that you were very helpful and instrumental in making that assembly with the Holocaust survivors happen for the whole high school. And I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you. That was really a powerful event that all of us who were there, I know, were moved by and learned so much. It really is a testament to, tremendous values that you and the staff and the students exhibited by having that here and really letting us all bear witness to 3 incredible people. So thank you for that work.
It was a wonderful assembly. All the workers, the students work. On my part, the staff part, that's easy stuff. That's pencil paper schedules. That's easy. It was a privilege to do.
I'll pass the text question to
Yes.
you then also. How's it going and what does the future look like to you?
From my perspective, going very well. Wireless is up. Very little downtime in terms of the wireless. In terms of the usage of our hardware in the library, also the laptop carts, they're in high demand. And I think some of the trickle-down effect is that some classes are now using our hardwired computer lab, if it fits with their schedule, more than they have in the past. So I think things are heading in a good direction, and I'm anticipating, as Mr. King has, more demand for hardware, so that use technology to enhance our instruction. But things are going very well.
Thank you.
No questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much.
Move on to board committee reports. Finance committee.
All right. So just note that even after the budget piece is done, the finance committee and Tom Burnell's office is busy. I'll just go through briefly some of the items. We talked a lot about the food service that, as many of you know, or maybe some of the students here don't yet know, that we have a new food service director and we share that director with Red Hook. So we actually have a lot of new things going on in our lunch program. I think it's important to note in terms of our population that over 15% of our students are eligible for free or reduced lunch. And we had seen those numbers increase after the recession, but it's important to see that still, even when certain segments of the economy are improving, we still have a significant number of families in our district who are eligible for free reduced lunch, which of course is an important program that we're happy to participate in. In terms of participation overall in the lunch program, breakfast participation is up, particularly at the high school. Lunch participation is flat or reduced, but our revenues for lunch are then similar to last year, but our monthly losses are decreasing dramatically, and we see improvement there in the management of ordering of food and use of food so that we're producing much less waste. I think just in terms of going forward in the future, you might want to note that we did have contractual expenses related to purchasing software this year in this program, Some of that will continue annually, but will be at a lower rate. So overall, the program is still experiencing losses, but at a much slower rate. So we consider that some positive news this year. Biodegradable products, some of the students here might have signed a student-generated petition asking the district to use biodegradable products, biodegradable trays and paper products as opposed to styrofoam. And Mr. Anthony is continuing to explore the cost of changing to eco-friendly products. It is would increase our costs slightly annually. But I think the committee and Tom feel like that it's an important thing to do, to have, not to use more eco-friendly products in the district. We talked a little bit about needing to sort our waste products. I'm sure, many of us are already used to sorting plastic and other recyclables, and maybe even composting food products in our own homes and other places, and that we should move in that direction.
Well, I got some more information on that.
Okay.
I talked to Sheldon about this. He said, first of all, they would not put those trays in recyclable because it had food on it. They don't want it in the recycle. So they want it to go into the landfill. So we talked about the plastic bags and that. He says, believe me, they're getting torn apart. So they'll be open to the elements and will degrade much, much quicker. Because the plastic bags, they're run over, they're torn all apart as they put the bulldozers and start bulldozing it. Those things do not stay in those plastic bags at all. But the big thing about the recyclables, if it's got food stuff on it, they don't want it in recyclables. They don't want it. Because that causes a problem when they try to recycle them. Not good. In fact, they pull that stuff out of your garbage. Pizza boxes, completely taken out. They don't want them because they're full of grease. And they don't want the grease in there. So as much as we're doing everything to toss in, a lot of that stuff does not get to actual recyclables because it's not clean.
Well, it's something I guess we can discuss.
We still can be looked at and we can do some
There's
things.
so much plastic, we are recycling, so we might want to
plastic,
continue
yes.
that conversation about how to, properly approach waste products instead of just throwing everything away.
Mm-hmm.
Since that is sort of the norm in many places now. Yes, we don't have to bid out for milk because we're under the threshold dollar amount for bidding, which is $20,000, and we're looking into the possibilities of a more locally produced milk product. Consideration is being given to increasing the breakfast and lunch prices by 25 cents at the middle school and high school. And Tom was asked to provide the board with information about how our prices are compared to other districts. This wouldn't come before the board until July. We also talked a little bit about the importance of promoting our new focus on fresh foods and healthier foods in our lunch program, and promoting that to parents and to students. And Larry Anthony the food service director, had done a newsletter, and hopefully by this time it was sent home through the various venues. Onto a different topic, the Smart Schools Bond, which was money that voters approved in November, New York State voters, to distribute certain monies to school districts for technology and other purposes, and the state informed the district of how we would be able to use our portion of that money, which is a couple of $100,000 plus. The state has a lot of parameters under which you can use the money. You can't just go out and do whatever you want with it. You have to just do a needs assessment about what you need technologically, and then you have to get approval from the state to spend the money. You spend the money yourself, and then we would get reimbursed by the state. So Steve is working on identifying needs, and just to note, I think around the table, it would be interesting to people that we cannot use the money for professional development, and we can't use the money for technical support. You also need a certain amount of technological capacity for like speed of the, and before you can actually bring in certain the equipment that you might want. So there are a lot of constraints on it, but nevertheless, we're hoping to use that money productively. As well, I think it's important to note that the state would like the district to demonstrate stakeholder engagement in the planning process, which is to have some sort of planning group, including various members of staff and administration and the community, and also non-public schools within the district need to be represented, and Thomas is going to look into, it seems that non-public schools are also eligible to receive some of this money.
Can I ask just a point of clarification? Would the money have to be shared with any non-public schools that are in the geographical region or of the district, or why are they brought in?
No, it wasn't in the guidance document.
So we don't know what it means.
No, I don't know what it means, other than they're a stakeholder.
They're
It
stakeholder.
was in the referendum itself, actually, which was kind of long, but that referendum did include that money would be used for non-public schools, even though it
But
is
what portion of
public
it
money.
would be
We just
theirs,
don't
I don't know.
Like charter schools, potentially? Is that-
We don't
Well,
have
you know,
that.
any non-public, I mean, as Joe pointed out, there are certain things, for example, we pay for textbooks for non-public schools, we pay for
okay.
transportation
Okay.
for non-public schools
Yeah, yeah,
within
yeah.
a certain distance.
Okay.
I think it's important to note, though, because that referendum was really portrayed by the governor as supporting technology in public schools, but, you know, in the fine print, this public money was also being distributed to private schools, so. We still don't know what that means, so we'll find out. We talked about, it's on our agenda tonight, lease purchase agreement for more devices from Apple. We can talk about that perhaps when we vote on the issue. I don't know if people need me to go through understanding the K-Star, the Questar 3 Employee Benefits Accrued Liability Reserve, just a detail that is explained there. And the New York State Government Efficiency Plan, I think we've talked about this around the table before, where the state is trying to encourage municipalities and school districts to find savings and efficiencies, and so the Dutchess County School Districts formed a consortium and produced a plan that they submitted to the state government, which showed the ways that we create financial efficiencies, for example, like sharing our food service director with Red Hook. Other things like refinancing of bonds, eliminating a bus run, etc. And where our portion of it, if the plan is approved by the state, the plan results in a property tax credit to homeowners. There'll be some budget transfers at the next couple of meetings as far as in order to refine our accounting at the end of the year. And in executive session, we'll talk about bus transportation vendors. Any questions?
On the efficiency plan, do we have to continue to show efficiencies as we originally thought over the next 2 years, or is this?
It was a 3-year plan, and it was submitted all at one time, so.
Oh, okay.
So it's the one submittal that was done by BOCES for the entire 13 school districts in the county, but it was done as a 3-year program. So it should be done and over with. All we're waiting for is then for the state to come down and certify the plan, or if they have questions, to get back to the questions.
Great, thank you.
I just want to follow up and say this will be great news for voters in our district. I mean, we've been seeing articles in the newspaper about this tax benefit or supposed benefit, and I'm sure people have been kind of curious about what it all really means. So the fact that this has been submitted on behalf of the districts of Dutchess County, it means hopefully it will go well, right?
Yeah, we submitted over $10 million worth of savings,
Right.
and we needed to generate 6.1 million, so. But there's a lot of good things. There's things that we typically do anyways. It's just that we quantified what we were doing.
Right.
So,
I guess, yeah, I would just say like a sort of counter story to that is that as the state is like continues to require things that cost money.
Yes.
And have a tax cap and not funding many school districts appropriately while looking for efficiencies, many of which, as Tom pointed out, we already do.
Right.
With a tax credit credit that goes to homeowners, this last year, right before Election Day. So in my
It's-
own mind, it's sort of a cynical way to appease sort of a constituency without truly talking about what the needs of school districts are
And what the costs are.
and what the costs are.
Right.
Which is not to say that I oppose efficiencies. I think that's important.
Can I just ask one other question, a follow-up to the point you made at the beginning of your report about the percentage of students who are eligible for free and reduced lunch? And I know this is just like, you're not prepared necessarily to answer this, Tom, but is this number growing incrementally? Is it staying?
It has been growing.
Flat?
I don't think there might have been one year since I've been here, 8 or 9 years, in which the rate actually went down.
Okay.
And if it did go down, it was very little. When I first started here, it was about 7%.
Wow.
Then we made an initial get out there, let everybody know. It kind of jumped up to about 9%, but the Great Recession hit, and it probably brought up about 12%, but you figure at this time it would start to come down, and it isn't.
It isn't
It
coming
went
down.
from, I think it was 14.4 last year, and it's now up to 15.5. And it's all across the board. It isn't concentrated in any one school at all.
Yeah.
You would think it might be concentrated down at the elementary because they're younger couples, just starting out, but that's not the case. It's across the board, K through 12. There's no pockets or anything along that continuum, so it's across the board at all grade levels.
Well, I think it's actually really important thing for us to be mindful of as we talk about planning in all kinds of ways. And I really appreciate the committee bringing it to our attention in relation to the question really of cafeteria and budgeting for that. But it seems to me it's actually a much larger concern in our community that we should really keep before us.
Just mention about the Smart Schools Bond Act as well. You recall that the act was approved on Election Day in November, and all these months have gone by, and we're waiting to find out how we're going to get our money. Remember that we spoke to our legislators about this a couple months ago. Finally, we got a 21-page document about how to get our money, and we still don't have all the details that we need about how much we're going to have to share with non-public schools. So we really have a lot more information than we had, but we still don't have information.
Yeah, just quickly about the biodegradable trays. I think it's great, and I really appreciate Tom, you, and Larry Anthony pursuing this request from the students. I think that is really powerful and important. I'm wondering what the next steps are, though. It sounds like there's still lots of discussion that needs to happen, and
One thing for sure is we'll just use our entire inventory of styrofoam until we transition to the other products. And I think Tom is going to continue to price out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea, is that we'd switch over to the biodegradables as soon as we run out of the styrofoam, really see how it works. Mr. Anthony did a number of tests with them to make sure they hold up, because they're definitely not as sturdy as styrofoam. But I got a couple of them the other day, and, it's, heavy-duty paper, it seems like. That's what it really seems like. So it's not like you're going to pour a cup of soup in it, and 15 minutes later, there'll still be a cup of soup there. So so we have to look for a different product for that.
Right.
But this, just as a tray, it seems to work fine. I mean, he had stuff in it for well over an hour, more than any, you'd have that in there, and it held up, because it does look, it's heavy-duty paper is really what it seems like. And it's pretty thick, it's sturdy, it's not like it's going to fall apart or anything, but, you don't want it soaking in water for too long, because it's going to degrade pretty quickly.
well, that's the point.
Yeah, it's a point, it is, but we don't want it to degrade too quickly.
I think the question really is how much we are willing to lose as part of the lunch program by going to this product, because it is more expensive, although it's certainly a lot less expensive than it was 4 or 5 years ago when the price got. I mean, the price has come down from like 25 cents a tray to 5 cents a tray. So it's a significant decrease. I'm not sure whether it's going to go down more, but it still will add to the cost of the meal. And we are still running in a deficit, although less of a deficit, so that's the good news. So it really goes hand in hand with a discussion about increasing some of the lunch prices to absorb some of that cost. But I mean, we're administratively, we're all committed to taking that styrofoam out of the manufacturing stream and out of the refuse stream. But it will be more expensive. So really, do we offset that with a modest increase in the cost of the meal, or, no pun intended, do we eat that extra cost? That's really, I think, the conversation, not are we going to go down that path. I mean, that we feel that that's the right thing to do, and unless the board directs us not to because of the potential loss in lieu of an increase in lunch prices, that's our recommendation at this point. Larry has been buying some of this product to actually field test it here. I mean, he's doing it currently, so unless it turns out that the product itself is faulty, and there are other products on the market than the one that he's using, and he's being very cost conscious in doing this. So it's the right thing for us to do.
That's great, thank you.
I just wanted to follow up on what you said, Joe. Is this going to be a joint initiative with Red Hook? Are they also going to?
No, it's ours.
That's interesting.
They have dishwashing facilities.
Yeah, they have hard plates and utensils, and they wash them. They have the labor costs that go with washing them and all the other environmental downsides that go with washing your stuff. But they already had that in place, so they're not gonna junk that stuff to go with biodegradables. For us, that makes sense, and it would be exorbitantly expensive to put washing machines and hire more people to, and buy the stock that you'd need to go the way Red Hook's going, so.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if the company that sells them maybe has some advice for disposing of them? Because I'm still concerned about, putting them in a plastic bag and,
Well, one of the things we talked about at one of our last meetings was having Sheldon contact our waste hauler to find out exactly how the garbage stream works. And he hasn't gotten
people
back
that
to us
sell them
on
may
that
have
yet.
like this is the best way to,
That's
what they do.
The great thing about this is an initiative that came from the students. They're showing a social conscience, and we're having this discussion and trying to do the best we can. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great. Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments for finance? Okay, that's the only report we have.
Yep, that's it.
All right, move on to good news.
Well, school budget passed. Thank you to our community for supporting the Rhinebeck Central School District and voting overwhelmingly to pass our budget. As well, I want to congratulate Diane and Mark on being reelected, and thank you for serving once again.
Just mentioned that there was a choral concert last week, which is a local program. Also, Joe and I and Dr. Davenport had the pleasure of attending the Scholastic Achievement Dinner last week with our valedictorian salute.
Great.
Congratulations to you.
It was great to see representatives of the high school and other schools participating in the Memorial Day Parade yesterday, as well as members of our community turning out, and the sense of continuity between the service that was celebrated and frankly mourned by veterans of past wars, connecting with our schools and young people also serving their communities. It was particularly moving, and I saw a lot of people from around this table there as well, so it was a good moment for our community.
Diane?
To go back to the choral concert, one of the benefits of our school, to see the seniors get to have a solo if they choose, is just, was a really nice moment in that concert and a great opportunity for them and something you don't see in many schools.
That's great.
Any other good news? Okay, old business. No old business.
Good.
Public comment, we have another opportunity for public comment. All right, seeing none. Other. Joe?
I sent out an email rather late this afternoon just to ask the board members to be thinking about what committees they might want to work on for the coming year, and to please email them to me, and I'll collate them, and then if there are any overlaps, I'll let you guys duke it out for whichever committees you wish. It kind of actually came out of a conversation this morning at the curriculum committee, which you'll hear a report on at our next meeting. But those individuals who still have work to do shepherding the new curriculum documents through to board approval expressed an interest, at least in that moment of madness, to continue with that project till they see it through. And I know there have been occasions from time to time where people are kind of in the middle of a body of work and they want to see it through. On the other hand, that's not to denigrate anybody who would like to try something different at some point. This is a little different in that Mark and Diane were incumbents. There were no new board members, so we've all been through the mill on this at least several years, some more than that. But still, we need to know what you want to do next year, so please give that some thought, send them my way. It'd be nice to kind of get that hashed out by June sometime, because we would make those designations at the organizational meeting on July 14th.
I thought you were going to say Mark and I got to pick first.
That's up to the board president to decide. So, no, that's up to you guys to figure that out.
Right. I'll just mention that last Thursday was the first meeting of Senator Serino's Education Advisory Board, which I was invited to participate in. And as you saw, there was kind of one urgent matter was the Senate bill that she was asking for the committee's input on, so I shared that with all of you, and Joe added some comments that I submitted to the committee, so we'll see what the results of that are. Senator Serino is on the Education Committee, although she's not a senior member yet, so I'm not sure how much of what her advisory board has to say will be heard by the Senate, but it's having a representative there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I also believe, and I mean this in only the nicest, most innocuous, innocent ways, but perhaps it's because she's a new senator, but I know Senator Flanagan, who's the sponsor of the bill, made a number of appearances with her very early on. So she has a relationship with him, again, in a good way, and it'll be interesting to see whether our opinions, and it'll be hard to tell, of course, but whether our opinions make any kind of difference if she's passing those along to her colleague. As I mentioned in my several rants over the weekend, I think the Senate bill is a much heavier lift than the Assembly bill. I mean, it leaves a lot more, in my opinion, to be desired, but we'll see where it goes. And hey, it could pass unanimously in the Senate and go nowhere if the Assembly isn't willing to play ball. So we'll see. But the fact that we're being asked for our input, I think, is a huge positive. thank Maura for, for sitting on that committee with all the other representatives around the county law. It's great that they're even asking what we
Yes.
think.
I would actually add that there's, quite a representation on the committee. There's teachers, there's a superintendent of schools, there's a union president, so there's certainly a lot of voices around that table. A lot of perspective there for senators to hear. Diane, did you have anything?
Just going to say thank you for, all we can do is give them good information and hope they do something with it.
Yeah, I have one other quick other, that's just to bring to everybody's attention the fact that we have a new commissioner in New York State.
Yes. Was that officially announced this
I
afternoon?
believe the news conference around 2:30, Chancellor Tish announced that she is from Florida, a former, well, a current, kind of current superintendent from Florida, but I think that's great. So we'll see what she does on the job. That's where the rubber meets the road.
Any other? With that, we move on to action items. Is there anyone who wishes to remove any item from the consent agenda? I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the consent agenda.
So moved?
By Deirdre.
Second?
Second by Lisa. Discussion. All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to grant tenure to Laura Natalie in the tenure area of music, effective September 1st, 2015, and may be revoked by the Board of Education up until that time.
So moved?
Second?
By Lisa. Discussion. All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to grant tenure to Nicole Sandoval in the tenure area of foreign languages, effective September 1st, 2015, and may be revoked by the Board of Education up until that time.
So moved?
By Deirdre.
Second?
By Lisa. Discussion. All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to grant tenure to Jenna Peters in the tenure area of elementary, effective September 1st, 2015, and may be revoked by the Board of Education up until that time.
So moved?
By Deirdre.
Second?
By Lisa. Discussion. Those in favor? Unanimous. That motion passes. Congratulations to the teachers.
Yes. And to the other people we have.
Indeed.
Good luck.
Yes.
We got another one.
We've got more.
We have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to grant tenure to Justin Randall in the tenure area of mathematics, effective September 1st, 2015, and may be revoked by the Board of Education up until that time.
So moved?
By Deirdre.
Second?
By Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes.
Now congratulations to everyone.
We have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to accept grant awards from the Rhinebeck PTSO in the total amount of $554.83 as stipulated.
So moved?
By Deirdre.
Second?
By Lisa. Any discussion? Thank you to the PTSO for their donation. All those in favor? Rick?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was watching to see if my wife was going home.
That's unanimous. That motion passes.
I was going to throw her a kiss or something.
I have a motion on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the BOCES fund surplus resolution agreement between the Rhinebeck Central School District and the Rensselaer Columbia Green Board of Cooperative Education Services, Trust R3 BOCES, and to authorize the Board of Education president to execute this agreement on their behalf.
So moved?
By Deirdre.
Second?
By Lisa. Discussion. All those in favor? That's unanimous. That motion passes. We have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the following resolution. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby approves a contract with Dutchess County BOCES for the acquisition of computer technology hardware, software, and related equipment through a 3-year installment purchase agreement, IPA, commencing in the 2015-16 school year with a total principal cost of $201,000.75 and Be it further resolved that the Rhinebeck Central School District will pay Dutchess County BOCES through its regular monthly billing cycle over the 3-year period to commence during the 2015-16 school year.
So moved.
By Chris.
Second.
By Lisa. Discussion. All those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. We have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to accept the donation of a red maple tree valued at $150 to $200 from parents Sarah Wheeler, Julianne Clausen Dowd, and Sarah Norwood to be planted at the Chancellor Lakes Elementary School in memory of Emily Casey.
So moved.
By Dave.
Second.
By Lisa. Discussion. Lisa.
I just want to comment on what a lovely tribute this is and to express my personal appreciation to the people who were responsible for offering it.
Okay, all those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. We have a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of discussion of the labor contract.
So moved.
By Dave.
Second.
By Lisa. Discussion. All those in favor? That's unanimous, that motion passes. We move into executive session.